Okay, so welcome back to this tutorial. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can sketch the graphs of a cosine function. Yeah, so of course, according to the question, we'll also discuss how you can find the amplitude, how you find the phase displacement. Then you can we're also going to discuss how you're supposed to find the period and also how to sketch the graph. Okay. So let's quickly begin. So for the first question here, question says find the amplitude of f of x. So f of x has been given to be this here. So this, okay, let me write it in this format. I'm sure you're going to understand it better. So a function f of x can be given according to Trig. It can be given as a cos. So here you can have cos or sine. So it's going to be a cos. Then you're going to have bx plus this can be any number k, then plus c. Or let me use this as c. Then this one I'm going to name it as d. Yeah, so what you have here is your amplitude. And then to find the phase shift or the phase displacement, you have to equate this expression here to 0. Then this one is also a displacement, but along the y-axis. So what you find after equating this part to 0 is a displacement, but in the x-axis. And then what you have there is the displacement in the y-axis. Okay, so let's quickly solve this equation. Rather, let's quickly solve the question. So the first question is find the amplitude. So the amplitude, you just get the coefficient of the trigonometric function that you have. So the coefficient we have in this case is simply just 3. Hence, the amplitude is simply just equal to 3. And then to find the phase displacement. So to find the phase displacement, we're going to find the displacement in the x, which is just going to be found by equating what we have there to 0. So when you equate 2x, so the first question we found the amplitude. The second question we're finding the phase displacement. So we're going to equate 2x minus pi to 0. So when you equate this to 0, you're going to make, our aim is to make x the subject of the formula. So we're going to have 2x is equal to, when negative pi crosses the equal sign, we're going to have pi. Then from there, we're going to divide everything by 2 so that we can leave x alone on the right. On the right. So we divide, on the left. So we divide by 2, and the value of x becomes pi over 2. So this one is the displacement in the x. So now to find the displacement in the y, you would simply just get this part here. But in this case, we don't have anything here outside. Sometimes it might be put on this part, and then sometimes it's put on this other part. Okay. So let's, so in this case, the displacement in the y is simply just 0. So it's just the same as not writing it there. Okay, so we move on to the third part. So the third part of this question is simply just, is asking us to find the period. So to find the period, you simply just equate 2 pi, rather not equating, but to find the period, we're going to say the period is equal to, we say 2 pi divide by the coefficient of x. So in this case, in this equation that I gave on top, the coefficient of x is b. So we can say to find the period, you simply just say 2 pi divided by b. So in this question, the coefficient of x that we have is 2. So to find the period, we're going to say, period is equal to 2 pi divided by 2 there. So because the coefficient of x is 2, so we divide by 2. So the period in this case is simply just equal to pi. Okay, so what this means is that one cycle is complete within the distance within the distance that is equivalent to pi. Okay. Or it's the number of cycles. How can I say it? All right. So what this means, if you have, let's say the period is equal to 2, it means that it takes 2 seconds or 2 units to complete one cycle. So in this case, it takes pi units to complete one cycle for this trigonometrical function. Okay, so we're done with the third part, which is just finding the period. So period, you just divide 2 pi by the coefficient of x there. So the fourth part here is asking us to sketch the graph.
Sorry, sir. Where are you getting the 2 pi?
The 2 pi is simply just equivalent to a complete cycle, or it's equivalent to one oscillation in short. If we move from, let's say, if you have, let me draw this XY plane. If you have 0 degrees there, if you move from 0 degrees up to 0 degrees again, which is just equivalent to 360 degrees, this represents one cycle or one oscillation in short. And we know to say, so this 2 pi is just the same as 360, because we know that pi in radians is equal to 180 in degrees. So if we say 2 pi is equal to 2 times 180, which is equal to what? 360 degrees. If pi is equal to 180, then 2 pi will be 360 degrees. So that's why we're getting 2 pi. So 2 pi represents one complete cycle. Yeah. So that's why we're saying period. Yeah, that's why we're saying the period is just the time taken to complete one cycle. What it means when we're talking about the trigonometrical functions, the period is simply just equivalent to the time it takes for a sine function. It will start from 0 there, go up, come down, and end at 0. So if we have a 2 there and a 0 there, it means that it takes 2 seconds or 2 units to complete one cycle. For a cosine function, it will start like this, go down and go up again. So if this is 0 and then this is 2, it means that it also takes 2 units to complete one cycle. That's what it means. So in this case, it takes pi units to complete one cycle for this cosine function. Okay. Let me just erase this so that we sketch. Let me just create enough space here. All right, so the period we found it to be 2 pi over 2. So meaning the period is simply just equal to pi. Okay. So now sketching this graph of f of x is now straightforward. And how do we do the sketching? So I'm going to draw my XY plane. I'm going to draw my XY plane like this. So this is going to be my 0. I know that this trig function is not displaced in the y, So since there's no displacement in the y, means that it's just going to be here. So it means that it's just going to be, I mean, the center line will just be the 0 axis, this one here. This is going to be my center line for the curve. Okay, so the period is simply just 3. So if the period is 3, I'm going to count 3 units going up, 1, 2, 3, and 3 units going down, 1, 2, 3, from the center line. And then the starting point of this curve is going to be pi over 2. So I'm going to put pi over 2 there, because this is the phase displacement, or this is the phase angle in short. I mean, the phase angle in this case is pi, so the displacement is just pi over 2. So this is the displacement in the x. So this is the point where my graph is going to start from. So pi over 2. Now, to find the point where this graph is going to end, I'm supposed to add the period to the phase displacement. So when I add pi, let me say the ending point. So the end point will just be equal to pi, which is the period. I'm adding it to the displacement in the x, which is pi over 2. So when you find the common denominator to find everything there, you discover that the answer will be 3 pi over 2. Okay. So I'm going to have my 3 pi over 2 somewhere there. Okay. So what we're going to do now is to find the midpoint. Find the midpoint of pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. The reason why I'm finding the midpoint is simply just to help me to sketch. But if I want, I can just do a quick sketch and do this. This is how the curve is going to be. But this is not going to help me because I will not know the number that is there and also the number which is there. So to find these numbers and also the number which is just here, which is the turning point. So to find these numbers, I have to find the midpoint. So the midpoint is going to be the turning point. And then after finding the turning point, I'm also going to find the number between the turning point and also this 3 over 2. So let me first start by finding the midpoint, which is the turning point of my curve. Okay. So the midpoint of any of 2 numbers is found by adding the 2 numbers and then divided by 2. So when you add 2 numbers and then you divide by 2, means that you are finding the midpoint of those 2 numbers. Let me just erase this. So the ending point we have found. Let me just erase this part so that we now find the midpoints. Okay, so the midpoint of pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, we're just going to add 3 pi over 2 and pi over 2. Then we're going to divide everything by 2, which is just the same as multiplying by half. So when you add 3 pi and pi, we're going to get 4 pi. 4 pi, so we're going to get 4 pi. Then 4 pi divided by 2, we're going to get 2 pi. 2 pi divided by 2 again, we'll get pi. So pi will be our midpoint here. Yeah, so you can just add these two, and then you multiply it by half. You multiply your answer by half to find the midpoint. So pi is going to be my midpoint. Then I'm also going to find the midpoint. I'm also going to find the midpoint of pi and 3 pi over 2. So I'm going to add 3 pi over 2 plus pi over 2. So I mean plus pi. So 3 pi over 2 plus pi over 1. This one, when I add the 2, I'm also going to multiply them, the final answer by half, so that I find half of the answer, which is the midpoint. So when I add these two, I'm going to get 5 pi over 2. 5 pi over 2. Then when I multiply by half, I'm getting 5 pi over 4. So I'm going to put my 5 pi over 4 there. Then I'm also going to find the midpoint of pi over 2 and pi. So I'm going to add pi over 2 plus pi. So this is just going to give me 3 pi over 2. And then I multiply my 3 pi over 2. I'll multiply it by 1 over 2. So when I multiply these two, the answer I'm going to get is simply just 3 pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4 will be my midpoint this side. So what this means now, to sketch this graph, I'm going to have, let me just draw a dotted line there so that I know where my turning point is going to be. So it's going to be somewhere there. So the graph will now move from 3, then to cut the x-axis at 3 pi over 4, then 10 at pi, then cut the x-axis at 5 pi over 4 again, and then 10 at 3 pi over 2. This is what it means. So we have sketched our graph. This is how we do the sketching. Do we have any questions about sketching before I can proceed to this last question? Do we have any questions about sketching? The most important part of sketching is just finding the starting point. So the starting point is simply just the phase shift, and then the ending point, you add the shift in the x to the shift in the x, you add it to the period that you have. When you add the period and the shift, the answer that you get is the ending point where your curve is going to end. So from this point now, if you want, you can proceed and begin to draw the other curve this side. Even here, if you want, you can proceed from this point and begin to add the other points this side. But this is the basic way of sketching a cosine function. Okay, so let us now solve the last part of the question, which is asking us to find the values of x for which f of x is equated to 3 over 2. Okay, let me just erase everything.
Yes, sir. As you are erasing, is that negative in front of the A on the top equation there? Or that negative is not supposed to be there?
It's not negative, but you can also have a negative there. But the way the amplitude is, whether there's a negative or a positive, the displacement will still be, if let's say for instance, you have -3 in front of the cosine function. So if you have -3, the displacement will still be the same. It will be 3 units up, 3 units down. That's how it is. So whether you have a negative in front or a positive in front, the displacement will be the same, but it will The only thing that will change is the curve. So instead of starting from this point, if there's a negative there, it means that it's going to start from that point and then to go like that. That's what it means.
Okay, you are helping us. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, let's now solve the last part of the question. So the last part of the question is asking us to equate f of x, which is this equation, to 3/2. Then the answers that we're getting are supposed to be in this range, which is just the domain that has been given. It's supposed to range from 0 to 2 pi. So we're going to have, so it's saying f of x is equal to 3/2. So what this means is that we're going to equate what we have there, which is 3 cos 2x minus pi. So we're going to equate these to 3/2. So when we do this, we can divide everything by 3. So when we divide this part by 3, and also we divide this part by 3, the answer that we're going to get is cos 2x minus pi is equal to this 3 and that 3 will cancel, meaning we're just going to get 1/2 this side. So to solve this equation, I'm going to equate what we have here in brackets to phi. So I'm going to say let phi be equal to 2x minus pi, so that the equation becomes cos phi is equal to 1/2. So this is what we're going to have. So I'm just trying to make my work easy. That's why I've equated that to phi. So now let us find the reference angle. So we find the reference angle by finding the cos inverse of half. So we're going to say to find phi, which is the reference angle, we're going to say cos inverse of 1/2. So phi is now going to be equal to, cos inverse of half is simply just 60 degrees. So 60 degrees in radians is simply just pi/3. How do I know that? We know that pi in radians is equal to 180 degrees. So if we want to convert this 60 degrees to radians, we're going to put it this side. Then we're going to put x this side because we don't know what it is in radians. So when we cross multiply, we're going to have 180 x is equal to 60 pi. Then when we divide by 180 so that we remain with x this side, we're going to have the value of x is equal to 60 into 60 there. The answer is 1. 1 times pi, you remain with pi as the numerator. Then the denominator there, we say 60 into 180. The answer is 3. All right, so we get pi/3 as the solution. So the reference angle in radians is simply just pi/3. Yeah, so pi/3 is the solution angle that is in radians. I mean the reference angle. The reference angle. Okay, so we can now find the quadrants in which this trigonometrical function lies. So how do you find the quadrant? You look at what you have this side. Is it positive or negative? So when you look at half here, this is a positive half. So now since it's positive, we know that a cosine function is only positive when we have this quadrant plane. We have in the first quadrant, all trig ratios are positive. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. In the third quadrant, it's only tan, which is positive. And then in the fourth quadrant, only cos is positive. So since this trig ratio is positive, we know that a cosine function is only positive in the first quadrant where all trig ratios are positive, and also in the fourth quadrant where only cos is positive. So we know to say phi lies in, so phi lies in the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant. So phi lies in the first quadrant and in the fourth quadrant. So now in the first quadrant, we know that phi is simply just going to be equal to the reference angle, which is pi over 3. So in the first quadrant, you just get the reference angle and then you equate it to phi. So, but remember that the value of phi was, at one point we said phi is equal to 2x minus pi. So while it's phi, I'm going to put 2x minus pi. 2x minus pi, that is my value of phi, and then I'm going to say this is equal to pi over 3. So when I take this pi to the other side of the equal sign, I'll remain with 2x this side, and this will be equal to pi over 3, then plus pi. So when I add the two, the value of x, 2x will now be equal to, this will be 4 pi over 3. So now to find x, we're going to have 2x is equal to 4 pi over 3. Then the value of x will now be equal to, when you divide everything by 2 to find x, you get 2 pi over 3 as the solution. So this is just the first solution. Let us now get the other solution, which is in the fourth quadrant. So in the first quadrant, this is the value of x. Let us now find the value of x in the fourth quadrant. So in the fourth quadrant, we know to say it's only cos, which is positive. And then to find the angle in the fourth quadrant, we say 360 minus the reference angle. So in the fourth quadrant, we say 360 degrees minus the reference angle. Okay, let me do this. So in the fourth quadrant, we say phi is equal to 360 degrees minus the reference angle that we found was pi over 3. So, okay, let me not use 360. Let me use 2 pi, because 360 is equal to 2 pi in radians. So I'm going to say 2 pi minus the reference angle that we have is pi over 3. So I have pi over 3. So phi in the fourth quadrant is simply just going to be equal to 5 pi over 3. But remember what we said. We said phi was equal to 2x minus pi. I wrote it somewhere here down. So this is what we know. We know that phi is equal to 2x minus pi. So while there is phi here, I'm going to put 2x minus pi. So I'm going to say 2x minus pi is equal to 5 pi over 3. Okay. So I'm going to take this pi to the other side of the equal sign so that I remain with 2x this side is equal to 5 pi over 3 plus pi. So when I add 5 pi over 3 plus pi, plus pi, I'm going to get the value of 2x will now be equal to 8 pi over 3. Then when I divide everything by 2 so that I leave x along this side, I'm going to get the value of x to be 4 pi over 3. So this is exactly how you find, the values of x. So now you have to check these answers. You have to check your solutions if they are in this range that you've been given here. So the range that has been given is from 0 to 2 pi. So is this, are these two solutions between 0 and 2 pi? When you look at this first one here, we have 2 pi divided by 3. 2 pi divided by 3, we know that it's 2 pi divided by 3 is between 0 and 2 pi. So this one is one of the answers. And then when you look at this one here, we have 4 pi over 3, which is also between the given range there, which makes x also, or which makes it also qualify to be one of our answers. Hence, the values of x that we were asked to find are, the values of x that we were asked to find are simply just, we say x is equal to 2 pi over 3 radians, and also 4 pi over 3 radians. So these are the two values of x that we were requested to find when you equate f of x to 3 over 2. So thank you very much for watching today's lesson, revision rather. I don't know if you have questions. So the next time we're going to meet, we have to finish the whole questions that are remaining in the first assignment, so that on Friday we begin the next assignment. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Maybe before you go.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if we divide the 8 pi over 3 divided by, we're dividing, is it by 2? Yes, by 2.
Yes.
I was thinking that we were supposed to find 4 pi over 6.
No, we're going to find 8 pi over 6. It's going to be 8 pi over 6. And then when you reduce it further.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you get it?
Okay, I get it now. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, so thank you very much for attending tonight's assignment revision. Okay?
Kindly send the recording as soon as possible before we forget the concept.
All right, I'm sending. Let me just upload them now.
Okay.
Sir, excuse me.
Okay.
Hello. Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
If I leave my answers in degrees, is it wrong?
It's not wrong, but that means that you also have to replace this part here. You're seeing where I'm pointing, this part?
Yes.
You have to change it to degrees. When you change that to degrees, meaning instead of writing pi there, you have to put 180.
Okay.
Yes, when you put 180 there, and then you solve everything in degrees, it means, the answers will still be the same.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Okay.